Good afternoon, everyone. It is 2 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. We want to welcome all of you to week 2 of Florida Virtual Campus's month-long series for online teaching and learning excellence. My name is Kathleen Taylor with the Florida Virtual Campus. I am pleased to introduce Robert Saum. Robert is the Senior Strategy and Deployment Specialist in the Division of Academic Innovation at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach. Robert guides higher education through disruption, and today he will guide us as we learn about his experience with microsurveys. So welcome, Robert, and take it over from here.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. FLVC is very near and dear to my heart, so I'm very thrilled to be here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share, move this out. Okay, there we go. So just a little bit about our microsurveys. It grew out of a need for us as an institution to have real-time real-time data coming back where we could make decisions and pivot immediately in a course. It's a little bit different from doing, say, just a survey in a course. We want to be able to go across sections, across courses, even run across terms and have data that keeps getting added to it. So the intent of this was to develop something, one that's open source, that would work within our system and allow us to not only meet the instructor's needs, but find out what's happening with the students in real time. And we actually have a couple of these surveys running right now as we speak. So the intent of this is I'll show you the tools and kind of what we're doing, and then I'm going to share some of the data and how this has really helped us. The one thing is we have traditional course evaluations, but that's after the course is ended, so they don't really give us the information that we want. So we did some experimenting. We looked at some different tools, and we tested quite a few different things to see where can we just inject these surveys across a bunch of different sections to get instantaneous feedback. And ultimately, things were either cost prohibitive or they didn't work in our environment, and we wound up sort of developing our own tool. So that's what I'm going to share today. This is fully open source. It works within Canvas. You can deploy it to one course, 100 courses. It's up to you. Everything's flexible, and it's just some JavaScript, basic JavaScript, and style sheet, CSS. And it leverages the Canvas themes and the sub-accounts. And then we have some extra tools that we use as well. There's a product called Metabase, also open source. This is a business intelligence platform. And I have a package with it if you're familiar with Docker. So if you're interested in using this tool, if you're on Canvas environment, all this is out on GitHub. I've shared the link in here. You can download it and run it. And there's also a Docker container within that you can set up and get your environment running within just a few minutes. Okay, so the intent of this is to create sort of a configurable survey. We do use different survey instruments. The predominant one, our go-to, is typically Qualtrics. We've used SurveyMonkey and other ones over the years, as well as Microsoft Forms. But for most of these, we'll use Qualtrics. And we embed that link into this tool. And the tool, as of about 2 weeks ago, now has two approaches. You can either have a pop-up message, which I'll show, or a button that appears on the course homepage. And you can determine there's configurations within it. So you can set when you want the pop-up to appear on that survey message, how long you want to appear for, what the text you want to say, where the link goes. You can adjust colors. Everything's pretty simple. So to enable it, in Canvas, this is within the themes. If you go into the themes, within that, there is an area to upload both the style sheet and the JavaScript. You do those and you apply it, and then it runs. Now, the trick is what we do is we have these under sub-accounts. So if there is a series of courses that we want, we'll create a microsurvey sub-account or something similar, and we'll move those into it. And then what will happen is when we apply the theme to that sub account, it then goes to all those courses. So it could be, 2 or 3 courses, it could be 50 or 100. So this gives us that flexibility, and we have a whole bunch of different sub accounts. We have them by courses, by areas, by divisions, by programs, lots of different ways that we can configure this. So that's just using the native Canvas capabilities. The tool itself will show one of 2 ways. If you get this share your thoughts as text, all that's configurable. It's just a little pop-up that appears in the course. Again, the colors, everything can be changed just through the style sheet. It's not that many lines of code, so you can easily change this and even adjust where the placement is. We found, though, that having it down towards the lower right-hand corner of the page gets a much higher response rate. And then you can also have a button that appears on the students in the little toolbar of their course, and then it'll appear on the homepage. That we haven't tested fully to see what the response rate looks like. With the pop-up approach, we get a very good response rate, and I'll share some of that data as we go through this. There's 2 different ways, and in the tool itself, in the JavaScript, there's an option. You just set it to 1 or 2, which one you want, and then it will either create the button or the pop-up. Most of our faculty prefer to have the pop-up. So where this tool came from was we had some faculty that kind of wanted to get an idea of how they were doing, how the textbook was doing. So, for example, we had an open educational textbook that we created, an OER textbook, and the faculty wanted to see if students were using it, what they thought of it, and kind of gauge the response. We've used it for finding the best place to put things in courses. So sometimes when you're looking at the course data, it's not always obvious as to what's the right approach. This way we can inject questions, and we use it. We say micro survey because it's meant to be no more than 3 questions. Sometimes there's more, but it's typically 1, 2, or 3 questions. Occasionally we might have 4, and the 4th being a free form where students can elaborate. And so in the case of the videos, we wanted to see, okay, was it best to put some of these right into the lessons, put them in the announcements? These were course overview videos. We wanted to see how students were using them. We could see what the engagement rate was, but trying to guess the placement without having a whole bunch of different courses and scenarios running, it just wasn't obvious. So with the micro survey, the students told us what they preferred, and we implemented the changes, and the engagement rate went up. Also, UX feedback. We've been redesigning. There's a homepage redesign committee on how tool placement looks, what the homepage looks like, so we can inject the survey in and get their feedback to see. And we're targeting just a couple of courses at a time, making some small changes, and then we'll take that back for an overall, basically overhaul. What we found is the response rate on these is typically about 40%. Sometimes it's as high as 80 or 90%. And if you really want to increase the response rate, you have the instructor send out an email as well as post an announcement. And then that's when you really get up to like the 60, 70, 80% response rate. And because they're short questions, the students typically don't bail out of the surveys, where you see the long ones like the end of course surveys. And a lot of times the students don't complete them because there's 15 to 20 questions, and they just don't always have enough time for that. One of the items that we found that's really helpful for was in a fluid mechanics course, where the students were really struggling with the concepts, and particularly with how to use a viscometer. This was a virtual course. They need to be proficient with the tools when they enter the workforce. So reading out of a textbook is inadequate. They need to actually have understanding of what the tool looks like. So we created a simulation that looks just like the tool, functions just like the tool, and it was dropped in the course. And we rolled out the first part of it, and then we put a micro survey out to see how the students were doing. Again, in the tool, we could see in the simulation how they were interacting with it. We were able to get some data back, but it doesn't tell you everything. and we want to know if they truly thought it was helpful. Using it's one thing, but do they like it? What's helpful? What suggestion did they have to make it better? So we were able to grab all that information, and while the course was still running, make some tweaks, enhance the lab, the simulation, and roll those out and have it the next week for them. And then we did another survey two weeks after that to kind of see how things were going. And it was great because we had almost a unanimous response rate, and the feedback from the students was overwhelmingly positive. So that was one of the ways where we could really see a difference that this tool was making for us. So just to reiterate, if you post an announcement, send out an email, as well as just do the pop-up, get a 400% response rate improvement. So that's huge. And that was one of the things we found out right away with this tool. And that was several years ago, and now it still pretty much holds true. The other thing we found, and this is where this tool has really helped us, is improving our content. If the students like the content, they love the faculty. They don't like the content, the faculty ratings in the end of course survey come back not as great. So that was something we were able to kind of deduce right from this tool that's really helped us improve, particularly like the simulations that we created, the open educational resource textbook. These things have really helped improve the overall faculty ratings. So another win. So here's the link. I'm going to show you some other components, and then we'll have time for a Q&A. So I'll come back to this so you can see I have some other resources. So let me show you. So this is out on GitHub, and this link is in the presentation. So if you want to use it, all that the tool uses is this style sheet here, and then the microsurvey.js, these two components. There's instructions in here. And then I also have a Metabase container. So if you're using that tool, which we're going to look at in just a moment, it uses Docker, also open source. But let me go to that tool so you can see it. These are the actual tables that we created for the surveys that run, so that we can then build dashboard environments like this. And this is where it really gets powerful, because now we can go in here and look at the terms. I can select one term and apply it, and it automatically updates the responses. This is just for one survey, and we build these out for each of the different surveys. Now that I built one, I can quickly replicate them. So this one took me about 2 weeks initially to develop. Now I can replicate this in pretty much a day. That's the beauty of it. And then you can look at responses just by courses. So let's say we want to look at math. We can see how many courses are running, the response rates, duplicated, unduplicated head count. That's not, let's go to a course where there's a lot more students. So we can see, we can look at instructors. I have changed the names for privacy. So we're just, for Star Trek fans, I'm just using some Star Trek names. But then we can see, okay, well, here it is for this instructor. So, okay, this looks pretty good. Let me go look at another one and see how they did. And what's great is that this will instantly surface some issues. So like this one, we only have a 10% response rate. That's way under the norm. So we want to go back and figure out why that would be. And this is actual data. I just changed the names. So it kind of gives you an idea of what we can see. And we can adjust all these filters for it. Then we have satisfaction level, so we can see, how satisfied the students are with the instructor. So extremely satisfied for the bulk of these, with the content of the course and with the facilities. And then we have some free-form questions. I don't have those here, but again, we can sort. And if I just want to see one question, so overwhelmingly positive. Now, if I go down here, I know it'll be not quite as positive, but still pretty good, because we were going through a renovation, and you can see the ratings drop down, and then they went right back up as soon as the renovation was done and the new facility was open. So we can kind of see what's happening. And then there's satisfaction rating. So if I want to see, okay, well, who's dissatisfied? Tell me all those that are either somewhat dissatisfied or very dissatisfied. And I can see, okay, well, there's some issues with 4 of the courses, and then I can go and drill in on those as well. And then there's also a time study, so I can see when our students typically responding, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on, what times of the day. All right, and then let me go back. I'll put these resources up. Okay, so I want to give everybody a chance to ask some questions, share some thoughts, and I have some other examples. If there's time, I can share as well some of the other things that we've learned from this and how we're using it. But I want to give enough time so you can ask some questions and answers, because the real power is in how this can help you.
Robert, looks like we have a couple questions in the chat, if you can see those.
Let me see. I had it open, but it closed. Let me see if I can get it back. Yes. Okay. How does it appear on the Canvas student app? That's a great question. Then the bulk, it also appears just like a pop-up, just like we saw back here. It looks, come on, go back. Looks very similar to this. I've noticed when I'm looking at the data that I'd say about 75 to 80% of the responses are via mobile. And so when we design stuff, we try to think mobile first, since a lot of students are leveraging tablets, phones, and other devices, especially when they're quickly just checking stuff. What do you mean by we? Not sure.
I asked that
What?
because you kept saying we can see the result, like when you were showing the data and the graphs, you said we can.
Yes.
You said we, and I wasn't sure who's we. And
So okay,
talking about the
I got you.
structure. Okay.
That is a great question. So in this, the way this environment is set up, so I basically do a dump from Qualtrics and then load the raw data into this environment, into the tables. So when I say we here, it's myself, my supervisor, and then whoever is the requester of this information, and it could be their whole division. So in the case of this, our Asia Institute, which is in Singapore, there are several individuals that are involved. So they have their own accounts in here. And that's what I really like about this Metabase tool, is that I can create their accounts, put them into their own group, and then create a dashboard for them. So I don't know if I have anything else under this one where we can see. No. So on the live one, I actually have a bunch of other containers here that are for other areas. So the homepage redesign, the open educational resource textbook, each of those are their own self-contained dashboards and reports within them. And all of these are basically just a visualization, a report of itself. I think there's like 18 total reports here, but only the folks within the Asia Institute can see their data. They can't see the other ones. So in this case, there's two primary individuals, and then they'll share this with their board of advisors. They can share it with others as well. And then we do have the capability to make this even more granular, where you can drill down into a course. I did not turn on tagging information, like where I would capture first name or last name of student or some other identifiers, because we want to get as accurate responses and honest responses as possible. The only identifier that we captured was courses, so that we could see if there were ones that were not reporting. Okay, so what was another question? The purpose of using the open source was because Button can show up across courses, right? Actually, we went with open source, and part of it was out of necessity. We had reached out to some vendors. We looked at some products that gave us the capability of pushing out these micro surveys, polls, different things out to students. But it was kind of what we got into as things started becoming cost prohibitive very quick. A lot of them will charge you by the message, and if you want to have large response rates, it can get pretty pricey. We also looked at partnering with some of our other vendors to developing an application, but we had a couple requests come in, and we had about a 2-week turnaround time. So there was no way we could get an RFP or any sort of purchasing done in time to meet the faculty needs. So we went and looked at Canvas and saw that there was the capability of adjusting these themes and being able to quickly deploy this. So we basically looked at some other code that was out there, created our own, and rewrote everything to fit exactly what we needed. And then we started using these other open source tools like Metabase. I stumbled across that again because we started reaching some licensing limitations with our own BI products. We can expand them, but I wanted to prototype stuff first before we made a significant investment. So this way, we went down a path. It was pretty much just time that we spent creating the code, testing it, and then putting these in place. But now that we found this, I love this Metabase application. It's so easy to build things in here, and I can roll them out pretty quick. And we have it running on our Microsoft Enterprise environment inside of Azure. So there's a Docker container running within that. So it's fully supported by our IT department, and it's fast as well. So the open source really was just necessity for us. We had a quick turnaround time that we needed to get things rolling. We had explored some licensing options, but a lot of things were just too prohibitive at the time. Where's the data stored and who has access to it? And are the questions created at the college level or instructor level? Great questions. I'll start and go in reverse order. So the questions are created at the instructor level or sometimes at the department level, but not at the university level. So it may be several instructors that get together and have questions that they want to create. And mind you, instructors can also add questions to their end of course survey, but when they want questions while the term's live so that they can make decisions and pivot, that's where the microsurvey tool comes in. So it's typically instructor level or department level, or it might be a little at a committee level in the case of some of the other ones. And then the data is stored within our enterprise license agreement with Qualtrics. And then I will download that and move it into a MySQL database. And then it is then linked up with Metabase. Only myself and the admins have access to the MySQL database, and then everything within Metabase is set up. Actually, it's role-based access. So I create the different areas for the different departments, and it's simple. You just go in here under admin. There is a people area, and then you can set up the different groups. I've purged everybody out of this one because I didn't want any see any data, but you can create different groups in here, and it's as many as you want. I haven't run into any limitations within it. And then you just add the individuals into those groups, and then you just give them permission to what you want them to see. So in this case, the folks would see just this dashboard if I put them into that group. Where are the themes in Canvas? And is this on the instructor level or the IT? So that is going to depend on institutional policy. In our case, it's at the IT level, but my area, we're not within IT. We're on the academic side. So they have given us access to go in and adjust them. So I set them up on our development and our test environments, test everything and apply them. And then I just put in a ticket to IT, and then they go and do it on the production side. We try to give them about a 2-week window. So I list all the courses that we're going to use. That's just a template. I copy them, put the new courses in, say, can you please run these? And here's the updated code. I drop it into a ticket, and then IT runs it. It works really, really well. It took the first couple of times was kind of rough. We kind of had to work through it and figure out how the partnership could be as smooth as possible. But now that we've been doing this 2-3 years, it runs really well. Other questions, thoughts, anything else you would like to know, look at? Happy to share anything within this. I'm going to go back to resources. And even if you're not on Canvas, you can still use similar approaches. There are other tools that you can use. There is a tool, I believe it's called the Impact, which we're testing now, that you can use within Blackboard, and I think they have other tools, Blackboard and Canvas. I know they work within, possibly others, where you can send out messages as well, and do pop-ups and similar things as to what we're doing. So there's quite a few other tools that are out there. In our case, it was we were exploring things, and then the requests all of a sudden started coming in. We got a couple in a row, and just did not have enough time to, we needed to move and act. And so we were able to put this together pretty much in a weekend, and roll it out. And then we've slowly added things on. The Docker, the Metabase, that took us, I tested it on another computer here. I had it up and running, within a couple days, but it took us a few months to working with IT to get a good, safe environment that met all of their parameters. But now that it's on that, it runs great. Fast, quick, and we've been able to scale without any issues. So cost to use this, great question. No, everything that I'm showing here, it hasn't cost us anything other than our development time. Let me go over to GitHub so you can see. So like the actual code, it's not a very big file. Well, it was 50 lines, but I added the button functionality. So it's about 100 lines of code, not terribly big. And then the style sheet's about the same. Not a whole lot. That can just pop right into Canvas. You can use that now. All that would have to be done is just linking to wherever your survey instrument is. We have multiple survey instruments that we use at Embry-Riddle. Because we're a Microsoft institution, we have Microsoft Forms, so I can drop that in here. But we have an enterprise license for Qualtrics. So 90% of the time we'll use Qualtrics, but we also use Watermark, which is our end of course, and we can do surveys in there as well. But it's a lot easier for me to take this data and move it into the reporting environments in Qualtrics than some of the other ones. And Docker doesn't cost anything. We haven't licensed it. The containers, everything we built, it's all free and part of this as well. So I've got the Docker images and stuff right here that can be set up. And if you have questions or you get stuck or you want to try this, please reach out. I've got my contact information. I'm happy to share or guide through as well. So let me put that on screen. So no, there is no cost for any of the items that I have shared. And I'll stop there and turn it back over. And if there's other questions, I'll hang around and be happy to answer as well.